Have you ever found yourself in the woods gazing at the mystery of a mushroom? Have you ever wondered if it's edible? Today I try to find out what you can and cannot eat in the woods. It's pretty crazy that the earth provides us with all of these edible things. It's primal. It's the way it used to be, but we've lost the way. Today I sit down with Denis. Denis has rediscovered the way, and he's super excited to share his knowledge. Please enjoy my conversation with Denis the forager. All right, I'm here with Denis the forager.
Hey guys.
Thanks for coming down, man. Been wanting to learn about foraging quite a bit more since I just came back to Newfoundland, because it's all my Instagram is lately is chanterelles and berries now, and
Yeah, it seems like it's picking up some speed here, and I know a couple of years ago a lot of restaurants were using chanterelles in some dishes, but it seems the last couple of years, like not only restaurants but just the general public are more eager to kind of like want to get in the woods and learn the ins and the outs and the spots and like where to find the stuff. So
yeah,
it's picking up speed for sure in this town,
yeah.
and even in the province.
Yeah. So how'd you get into it?
I got into it, I guess it was about, 3, well, I guess I originally got into foraging, like picking berries with my nan and pop, like just being like a young kid and being amazed that that something grows back every year and we can just go here and we can pick it and we can put some time and effort, but like we get food out of it at the end. So like I remember Nan and Pop on both sides really just teaching like that kind of value at a very young age. So like between that and going fishing, I guess it started with berry picking and fishing like a lot of Newfoundlanders. So like I know my Nan and Pop would say, hey, well, here's a berry, but they'd also would be the same one saying, never eat a mushroom. They're all poisonous, but that's not the case here. Like there's a lot of edible species, and like back in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't kind of a thing that people did, but now everyone knows that golden mushroom and they love it kind of thing.
Yeah. Did you grow up in Newfoundland? Or?
Yeah, I grew up in town. I moved out to the west coast of Newfoundland back in the late 90s and came back in the early 2000s to St. John's and been here ever since. But like the kind of mushroom craze maybe started about 3 or 4 years ago with me. But the last 2 years specifically, it's kind of like an everyday thing. Like if you don't go in every day and put in 6 or 7 hours picking, then you're not going to get the supplies for the restaurants and Lester's Farms and different people that I've been working with for their customers. So it's like you never want to leave those guys stranded. Although there's a ton of people supplying mushrooms in the city, it's nice that some people stay loyal to you when you supply to them. So that really helps out and is really giving me a good 4 months every year kind of thing.
Yeah. Just in town here, like I've tried contacting a couple foragers and they just tell me they're way too busy like right now to even like come in, which is understandable. It's like end of summer.
Yeah.
Do you like how do you do you have a ton of connections with restaurants and stuff around town? Like how does that relationship get built?
Oh, well, I guess the relationship started with my buddy Adam Blanchard. He does the Five Brothers Artisan Cheese. I did a lot of food events with him and got in with a lot of chefs and became friends with people who owned restaurants in town. And between like the food events and then knowing those people, it's like it kind of went hand in hand. Like at the beginning of it, it was tough. Like it kind of took a long time to get to this point to be able to go in the woods 6 o'clock in the morning. And by noon, not only do you have your 20 pounds or 30 pounds of mushrooms picked, but you have them sold before you even get out of the woods and get them weighed up and get them divided out for the restaurants. So it's like rewarding that way, knowing that, hey man, this is a product. It's obviously being delivered and being presented in a way where, hey, they're coming back and buying it again. So that's like fuel that fucking feeds. I just swore, but that's fuel.
You can swear all you want.
Oh,
it doesn't matter.
That's fuel that feeds the fire, and that's what keeps me going. It's like if I was picking mushrooms every day and no one was buying them, I'd still be having a good time, and I'd be drying them out for the winter, and it would just be a food source. But it's nice to know that, hey man, these people need a little bit of help. They're great restaurants. I do a lot of work, just to name a few, like Hungry Heart Cafe up in Rollins Cross has been great over the last couple of years. Bernard Stanley's, Calvin down at Oliver's has treated me great. I would just drop 25 pounds out to Lester's Farms this morning. They've been a twice a week customer. So the consistency and the loyalty that these people are kind of like providing and delivering to me, it's like, it makes me want to do it even more, because it's like, oh, there's a need. Okay. Not only is there a need for, the fact that let's spread the knowledge on what we can pick, but it's like, hey man, maybe some people don't have time because they're running a restaurant or they're doing this and that, and they just want the product. So it's nice to be able to provide it for them.
Yeah, for sure. How much would you say, like, a large part of your diet is stuff that you forage, or?
Well, I do like, a lot of fishing. It depends on the time of year. Like in the winter time, there's a lot of like pickled chanterelles, that gets put down in the fall. There's a lot of ice fishing that happens, but, it's mainly like in the summertime, in the springtime, in the fall time, it gets included. Like, I just went for a fire before the interview there. I got 3 friends in from BC, and, some of them, one or two of them have tried like foraged mushrooms before. But like just took them in and cooked up a meal and threw in some berries and threw in some mushrooms, and they loved it, man. And they're over having a beer now, and I had to run over and meet you and do this great interview, and like they're just having a time. Like they can't believe that. Like I got a foraging tour starting tomorrow, and like they're coming in, and they can't believe that, hey, like this is here too. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're an island, but it's still here. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't get cut off. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it must be cool from like a BC native perspective to come over and see this, because British Columbia has always been known for its abundance of the land and everything, right?
And its abundance of mushrooms and fruit and orchards. And yeah, like a goal for me, like I would love to just go over to BC in the springtime. I watched a documentary recently. I can't remember the name, but it was a documentary about morel mushrooms and morel picking in BC in the spring, and how they come up after the fire. And it's like a tent village of 100 people living there, and they go and pick in, and there's a truck there, and you go and bring your mushrooms to this truck, and this truck pays you cash. And then the truck brings it to another sorting facility, and then the sorting facility contacts the restaurants and distributes. Where in the case of like Newfoundland foraging, like not only are we going in, we're finding the mushrooms, we're sustainably harvesting, we're taking them back to our homes or weighing up, but we're doing the customer service side of things too, the sales side. Like anyone that sells mushrooms here has to get on the phone at some point and make a phone call and be like, hey, I got some mushrooms. Do you guys want them?
Yeah.
Whereas like on the other side of the country, when you're morel harvesting, it's just like, let's pick as many fucking mushrooms as we can, because there's $100 bills back right by my tent.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? There's no like lines that you have to jump through or hoops that you have to jump through kind of thing.
Yeah.
But a goal is to go to or be in BC in the spring, and just like do the morels for a month and see how well it goes. Like it would be a nice test.
Yeah.
And a nice, I've never traveled either, so I'm just kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But like in regards to what's happening tomorrow, I just want to give a little shout out. I'm pretty fucking stoked about it. I kind of threw out the idea of doing foraging tours, and what that would consist of is it's a 5-hour tour. The first 2 hours, it's like we're walking into the spot, we're meeting and greeting, we're talking about like just general woods etiquette, woods safety, because not everyone always is in the woods, like hunting or gathering or having a fire. So there's some newcomers, there's some green thumbs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in regards to just talking about kind of just very generic stuff, like don't walk around with your knife out. Like always put your whatever you're cutting your mushrooms with or whatever back in your creel or back in your basket, so we don't have an accident 5 kilometers in the woods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the first 2 hours is kind of just like walking in the meet and greet. We're going to find like whatever is available at the time. Like right now, we're probably just going to be introducing the chanterelle to people who aren't familiar with it where to find it, show like its habitat, show where it grows, show how to sustainably harvest it. So it's there next year and it's going to come back just as thick or thicker. Like I've done a lot of tests over the last couple of years, and if you take a patch, say, and if you have 100 mushrooms in a patch, let's pick like 60% of the biggest ones. Let's leave the smallest ones, but let's take all the rotten ones and cut them and like spread them out in the patch. So what happens when you do that? You make this crazy flush, and like this is I've never even talked about this out loud to anyone. So like this is a nice tip, to be honest with you. So when you're picking mushrooms, take all the rotten ones and just like scrunch them up and just like throw them around that same patch. And like if you're picking in spots that you're familiar with, and if you're picking in spots where you're not going to get turned around in the woods and you're comfortable and you know where you're to, then you're going to be able to get back to that same patch the following year because it's in you to do that. You know it's there. So try it. Just try it this year. Try to like take some mushrooms that you're not going to take home with you and just leave them and scrunch them up and let the spores go and just see how that patch grows back next year. And I promise it will grow back thicker because and it sucks because every time I go in the woods, my phone dies on like 60%. So I can never open up my camera and take videos. But when I was in the other day, came across my biggest flush from what I was doing from scrunching up the mushrooms. And it was, oh man, it was like 6 or 7 patches, like 500 or 600 mushrooms a patch. They're so close together that they're like all touching. It's not a natural growth of them, and it's like it's manipulated by doing that. So It's an interesting concept. I don't know if it really works for anything outside of chanterelles, but it definitely works for chanterelles. I can't vouch for anything else. But the foraging tour, we're going to go in, we're going to talk about stuff like that for the first couple hours. We're going to be in a group going around and being very close knit, and they're going to be watching, hey, this is the right mushroom. This is the right way to cut it. The third hour, we're stopping, we're having a fire. We're going to cook the mushrooms or whatever we're foraging. We're going to do a little cook up. We're going to get everyone eat this stuff mid session. And then the last 2 hours, we're going to just go out in like groups of 2 or 3, maybe a little bit more spread apart, like in earshot, but we're just going to be walking hundreds of feet apart, and we're going to see how we do on our own. And then the last half an hour, I check everyone's baskets, make sure everything's copacetic and good. And then they all go home with a bunch of mushrooms and a wicked mushroom picking spot. So the tour tomorrow, a couple of guys that are going are excited. My friends from BC are taking part in it. They're super excited. And then there's one plan for Monday as well with 10 people. So just trying to get everything lined up for that. But I'm super excited to teach people and take them into the woods and just see different people's reactions about different things that they see, because they might not be used to seeing it.
So I know you're doing the tour tomorrow and Monday. This is probably going to come out next week, like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
But if people want to get in contact with you in the future for potential future tours, how could they do that?
Well, I guess the easiest thing to do would be if anyone has Facebook, they can go on. I started a group there a few months ago. It's called Newfound Forage. It's all one word. And we're like over 600 members now, man. I'm super proud of the fucking group. And there's a lot of participation, and a lot of people are super stoked about it. So if you wanted to find out about the tours, you can go on there, and I'll be making some posts about it. And if you didn't have Facebook, you can call me. You can call me 691-5009. That's 691-5009. Any day, anytime. You can call me. But just don't call me Al, okay?
Gotcha. Really putting yourself out there.
If you guys ever heard of that song before, it's a really good one.
So like in Newfoundland, when you're going out, say like, I don't know, a single thing, but maybe I've read some articles online or I picked up a book. If I just go out and start wandering around and gathering stuff, is there anything that I could potentially get very sick off of or die from or...
Yeah, okay. This is back to like the hey Nan telling you don't eat any mushrooms. They're all poisonous. Well, like there is a lot. Like there's a great book that's out. it's like a common book of Newfoundland mushrooms. It's by I can't pronounce his name right. I think it's Andreas Voigt, and he's from the west coast of Newfoundland. There's also a great group I want to plug right now. It's called Newfoundland Mushrooms. It's a great group. It's also on Facebook. It's dedicated people to the passion of what they love and mushrooms, and I've never seen quite the camaraderie and everything involved in anything online. And I love the group. So I just wanted to plug that right quick. Newfoundland Mushrooms on Facebook. What were we just talking about before that, though?
Whether or not you're going to die if you eat a random
Oh,
mushroom.
yeah. You can definitely die by eating random mushrooms. Let's just talk about something right quick. This spring was the first time I found Morels here. And now Morels aren't native to growing on the Avalon, but they're getting transported in on mulch from the west coast of Newfoundland. So, like, we've kind of nicknamed them mulch Morels here. They're still Morels. We're not going to discredit them in any form, but they're just not growing naturally here. So instead of going in the woods, you're going like, I can't give away my Morel spot because there's only one, but you're going like by Walmart, by the mulch and Walmart, and you're picking Morels. But anyways, I found some this year. Super, super delicious mushroom. Never tried them before. And back to the poison. So if you take a Morel and cross-section it, it's going to have a very even kind of like, not a spoon-like shape, but it's going to have an even divot on both cross-sections where there is a false Morel that grows here. And it kills people all the time. And when you cross-section it, there's no kind of even microphone shape in the middle of the mushroom. It's kind of more spastic and sporadic, and there's no real pattern to it. So like it kind of looks like a brain, I guess, rather than a Morel kind of looks like a golf ball pattern with a little tiny point on the end, I guess. Like it's a longer head mushroom, very short stem, white stem. But yeah, it's really neat that those are growing here. But it's also very dangerous that there's a lookalike for everything. Like when you pick in Labrador tea, there's like 3 plants that grow by it that all look very much similar to it, with the exception of the felt on the bottom of the leaf. None of them have that felt that the Labrador tea has, but like with any kind of living organism, there's always a lookalike. So I'm not saying they always grow by each other. I've never found a false Morel by a real Morel here in Newfoundland, but that's because they're not growing naturally where I'm finding them. So if you're out in BC, maybe that would be more likely, but I can't vouch for that. But other than that, yeah, there's a ton of unpalatable mushrooms that just don't taste good, or mushrooms that can like upset your stomach, give you vomiting, diarrhea, and definitely a bunch that can kill you. Like a very interesting point that I read in that book I mentioned, Common Mushrooms, earlier, of Newfoundland and Labrador, is the fact that I think they said in it that they recorded like 2,200 species of mushrooms here, but there's like 5,000 to 7,000 kinds that grow here.
Oh, wow.
But they like all that's recorded is like a quarter of what actually is here. So it's interesting because, we kind of know very little.
Yeah.
We're just on the verge.
Yeah. Are there any, I'm sure there are medicinal plants out there, but do you go foraging for that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. A big thing with that, a lot of different plants and mushrooms hold different qualities. One that I'll speak about, though, just because it's not very abundant here on the Avalon, although I do have friends that find it. But Chaga, Chaga, if anyone wants to Google, look it up. It's basically, okay, let's start. Okay, so Chaga grows on hardwood trees, particularly birch, and it grows near fresh water. It likes fresh water for some reason. And basically, Chaga is not a mushroom that grows out of the ground like everything else. It's a mushroom that will grow from the tree itself and infect the heart of the tree and work its way out. So when you see Chaga on a birch tree, just picture a paper birch and picture like that white birch that you start your fire with, guys. So it would be a contrast of like a black charcoal color. Like it will look like it will look like a piece of charcoal wood from the fire, but even more gritty and rough. And when you cut into that, you'll see a nice like orange veiny running through brown, and that is the Chaga mushroom. Now, Chaga is incredibly, incredibly beneficial to anyone. I can't even really start to describe what it does. It does basically everything. People mainly do it in teas. Teas is the easiest way. It's just make a tea. You can reboil the same chunks like 7 or 8 times in the tea. So it lasts quite a long time. But like, I want to talk about the tincture. I've done quite a few rounds of Chaga Tincture. It's pretty time consuming, wait time, not really amount of time put into what you're doing. But a Chaga Tincture, the interesting thing about Chaga is if you're just doing it, boiling it in water, you're getting a very small, minute amount of the benefits, where the alcohol will extract the main amount of the benefits from the Chaga mushroom. So when you do a tincture, what I basically do, I'll just take a minute and explain it. So you take some Chaga and I ground it up and I put it in a mason jar. And you can use the highest proof alcohol you can get. If your grandfather makes alky, well, you use that. But I usually use like a 90 proof gin. I think it was the Botanist. Yeah, that's the name of it. But you basically just soak the Chaga grounds in gin. We won't get in like different people. Some people might just like soak it 1 part ground to 3 parts gin. I do equal parts ground to equal parts gin in a mason jar. And I'll just date the top of the mason jar so we don't lose track of the date. And they say to wait a month. Some sites say wait a week. Some sites say wait 3 months. I waited 4 months every time just because I just wanted to be really dark tincture. So I waited the 4 months. Nothing else is going to be left in it. So you soak it and then you drain out all that alcohol after 4 months. And you drain it just into a bowl temporarily. And you take the grounds and you put the grounds in a pot and you put it on your stove. Don't turn your stove on yet, though, because you got to measure how much alcohol came out of those grounds. So let's just like use an even number like a liter. So what I do is if it's a liter of alcohol I ground out, I will put 1 liter of alcohol in with those grounds. And then I'll take a wooden spoon and I'll make a little mark on that wooden spoon. And that mark, it means 1 liter of fucking water. Okay. So I'll take another liter water and put it in on top. And then I'll just do a little like slow simmer, like really low on your stovetop. So like over the course of the whole day, that 2 liters of water will diminish into 1 liter of water with those grounds. What you're doing now, you're using the water to extract the things the alcohol could not extract from the Chaga mushrooms. So that's a 3-day process. So you do it one day, then you boil it down to the 1 liter. You add a liter of water again. So it's like 2 liters in, then you boil the 2 liters down to 1. And then the 3rd day you add another liter and you boil that 2 liters down to 1. So you're always adding that liter of water every day and boiling it down to that mark that you made on the stick. So after the 3rd day, you take that liter of water and you mix it equal parts to that liter of alcohol. And then that is your Chaga tincture. And like, I've bottled it up in 1 ounce bottles, 30 ml bottles. I've sold it to anyone that has terminal illness, to back pain, to problems sleeping, to like knee problems. And it's not something that's well known here. So it's like, if you put something on a market that no one knows about, well, no one knows about it. So it's not going to really do anything. But if you talk about it a little bit and if someone is interested, well, you just talk like I'm talking right now to you guys and explain to them like, hey, it's not just a tea. The tincture is a tincture. Tinctures are always better than teas. Just think about it.
So it's like a concentrated form of it.
Exactly. And like an ounce can last for like a month. You just do a couple drops underneath your tongue. I have a friend that's been taking it. Shout out to Zane Snow. Shout out to Zane. He's been taking it for like 4 years, man. The motherfucker has never been sick in his life. Like, he's like a healthy fucking boy, man. Like, I'm not going to just say he's healthy because of the Chaga, because he has a pretty healthy lifestyle, but I know it has something to do with it. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
It can't be, man. Everyone gets sick in Newfoundland.
Yeah, that's right. With the weather,
sick of everything. Sick of the snow.
So the main purpose of it is, well, obviously there's lots of qualities, but
like honestly, I'm not even going to pretend like it's something that you literally just like Google Chaga. I can't even remember everything. One thing I do remember though. Some kind of like, okay, so blueberries, just say that blueberries have like fucking 37,000 parts per million antioxidants in them or something like that. Chaga has like 10 times that. Like it was crazy, the reading that I did. I just don't recall information like about numbers and stuff that I read a whole lot, but it like blew me away. I was like, blueberries have that much and Chaga has this much in antioxidants? Wow. But it's like, it's for bad tummies, man. If you got the shits, man, drink a cup of Chaga tea. You won't have the shits.
I might need some of that.
I got some at home.
After a long weekend.
Oh, the beer shits, man.
Yeah.
Black Horse.
Mushrooms obviously are like, well, fungi in general are like pretty intricate, and there's so many stories and anecdotes over the years of like spiritual associations and religious practices. What's your kind of take on that? What are your reflections?
Well, that's a pretty interesting question. I didn't expect it to go this direction, but I'm amazed and impressed. But when it comes to things like that, like anything that we can walk with our own 2 feet and a heartbeat to, and get, well, and it's free. You got to consider this. It's free now, okay? So anything that comes from the land, to me, is like a fucking righteous thing. It's a special thing. Like, I'm sure that some of the things that grow here, they don't grow everywhere, and vice versa. Like, we don't have things that grow in Puerto Rico here. But like, I'm grateful for everything that this fucking land provides. But if you want to get into that, the question, it's always nice to do some Liberty caps every fall. So when everyone's getting ready for Halloween, and you're talking about Halloween costumes,
Liberty caps being a
being a psilocybin mushroom, very psychedelic. If anyone that's listening has ever induced themselves and hit the reset button, and you know what I'm talking about when I say the reset button, you know that like cubenzas or anything other than a Newfoundland mushroom that you've tried is like a fucking Sunday drive with your mother with the seatbelt on. You got the seatbelt on because it's so controllable and you can tolerate it. But when the psilocybin Liberty caps, around the right people, around in the right kind of setting, can't have any jerks, any ninnies. No, they can't be around. And everyone has to be in a very similar mindset. You can't do this shit with anyone, folks, okay? I'm not telling you meet someone downtown and do some mushrooms. It's a very intimate thing. But when it happens and it's right, well, we can talk for an hour about it. But like, just if you want to... Okay, back to psilocybin mushrooms. I have to just like shout out to the RCMP. I love what you guys did on the Newfoundland mushroom page there last week. Woke up 7 o'clock in the morning, checking the page, just commit it like every other mushroom picker there. There's a fake account made. I got to shout this out, man. I hope everyone fucking hears this.
What's the backstory here?
The backstory is there's a post made on our Newfoundland mushroom page, okay, that everyone is committed to. And the post is a jar of cubenza mushrooms that don't grow here. And it says, I'm looking for these. Now, we never seen the name before. It's a tight-knit community, right? Never seen the name, never seen the face. So I didn't even click and look on the profile. I was just like, this is hilarious. Like, this guy clearly doesn't know anything about mushrooms because these don't even grow here. And I like made a comment like, this post is irrelevant. Like, this should be taken down. This is not about Newfoundland mushrooms. This is someone looking for mushrooms that get high that aren't even from here. So a couple people commented on it, and then this lady that I know said something like, "What a sketchy profile" or whatever. So I went and checked the profile, and like there was like 5 pictures. Like one of them, he's holding a yellow morel. It doesn't even grow here. Like it was like such a fake profile. And we made a couple comments like, wait a month and go for a walk in the woods, my son, or go for a walk in a field, my son, and just made a couple comments, and the post was taken down. But like it was just funny that like the RCMP is that bored. I'm being very serious now because there's way more stories than this, but they're so bored that they think that this mushroom group is a bunch of hippies fucking selling drugs to each other when it's literally a bunch of mycologists and scientists and mushroom enthusiasts sharing their love and passion for something. And like waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning with my coffee and just like seeing that shit, man, with all the problems that are going on in this city that we won't even mention right now. They're all very rhetorical problems. Rhetorics. Well, they shouldn't be worrying about someone's selling mushrooms, or it's very small news. You know what I mean? But the effort going in, like, what are they watching the page? You can go back a year. No one's ever mentioned a psychedelic mushroom really on the page. Maybe a post in the fall, but no one's making posts selling mushrooms. So what are they going on? I just want to throw that out there. Big shout out to RCMP there. Good job, guys.
I love all the mushroom stuff, but I have like more questions.
Yeah, go. I'd love to. Yeah, go on.
So I've been like keeping an eye on like just articles in the Overcast and like other local papers and stuff.
Sure.
And there seems to be I see two themes popping up which seem contradictory. One is sort of like the food disparity situation in Newfoundland and like access to fresh produce and that kind of thing. But then I also see and read things about like people foraging and like access to wild game here.
Yeah.
And I just think it's kind of, isn't it a bit ironic that there's an abundance versus disparity issue here? Like,
well, I think we would definitely rely on food and goods coming on boats here to feed us and keep us alive way more than we should. The whole point of the Newfound Forage group, to be honest with you, dude, was like, there's so many groups on Facebook, as you know, but like, this is just a group to be like, hey man, if you want to learn about stuff, join the group. You're going to learn about spruce tips or stinging nettle pesto or like rhubarb or like how to catch a fish. Like, it's all about like sharing knowledge about what we can take from the land at the right times of the year. So the point of the group was to bring awareness on like, hey man, if the fucking boat shut down for 10 days, we would all starve to death here, and it would be an apocalyptic situation for most. Some can probably go in the woods and stay alive, but the point of the group is to spread the knowledge of like, hey man, we could all be doing this. We could all be preserving everything. Like, I just made fucking 50 liters of spruce tip oil, 50 liters of spruce tip oil and safflower oil. So like, that's like, if I wasn't even going to sell any to restaurants, that's like a year's supply that I'm sharing with family and friends. And all it cost was a bit of oil and a bit of time going to get some spruce tips and to make it nice and tasty for the winter. But if we all just went, it took like one day a week and just went in with their family. If you got a family, take the kids in. If you take your grandparents and take your uncle in, but just go in and fucking pick something, man, and fucking put it in a jar or fucking freeze it or fucking dry it out. Like, do something. Just don't rely on Dominion and Sobeys and shit to give you your berries, or like to fucking go to Dominion right now. They have chanterelles, dried chanterelles from BC. That's very fucking opposite, isn't it? $4.99 for 14 grams. That's a half ounce. For all you math people, there is 32 half ounces in a pound. Now, if you do the math even further, that is $160 for a dried pat of chanterelles that's getting shipped across the country when they fucking grow here. It's ridiculous. Let's start a cooperative. Who wants to join? Come on, let's go and pick all the chanterelles and dry them out, and we'll split the money evenly, and we'll supply Newfoundland with dried chanterelles this winter instead of someone across the country, because they're here. And we pick like 5% of them. We leave like 95% of the mushrooms to rot in the woods. I heard that number.
Wow. Do you ever come up against like other foragers, like going to the same spot? Do you ever bump heads?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. I seldomly come across anyone. That's like seldom. Like I came across this older man up at one of my hot spots there last week, and he came out. He had like a pound of mushrooms in his basket, and I was just going in, and I stopped, and I was like, "How you?" Like, I seen his basket. I was like, "How you doing, man? How did you do today?" And he showed me, and he had his knife on his side and stuff. He's like, "Oh, there's not much up here. There's not much up here." I was like, "Well, where are you going?" Like, not to take your spot away from me. He's like, "Oh, no, I'm just sticking to the trail, and I'm looking 20 feet off the trail." Whereas, like, to find, like, you can find them everywhere. Like, everyone thinks they just grow in moss underneath trees, and it has to be a very wet environment. I found them on gravel roads every other day. Now, they're not the same fit to pick fucking chanterelles that you find in that moss, but they're still growing there. And I find them in open clearings where boletes would grow, huge patches like just hidden underneath low-lying brush. But like this guy wasn't going 3 kilometers in the woods. Like I will vouch to the fact that the more you walk, the more you're going to find. It's like anything, like mushrooms, friends, opportunity. You know what I mean? The more you walk, the more you're going to find. So this old man, he said he didn't want to go any further than 20 feet off the trail. And I can understand that, you know, being in there by yourself, gets pretty squirrely sometimes. Sometimes I get turned around too and get a little panicky, but take a deep breath and smoke a joint and I can go on. But like this man only got a pound. And I told him, hey, I'm going in now and I'm not coming out until I have this creel and this basket full. And it's going to be 25 pounds. And I went in and he said he was in 2 hours and he only had a pound. And I was on a time restraint because I had to get the car back at that day for the missus. And, I think it was an hour and a half and I had 18 pounds in an hour and a half. Now that's a really, really, really good day. I got to stress that, like going in and doing that, like that's not an ordinary thing. But once you find them, it's like some people, I know some adults that have wanted to find them for years and I've been asking them to go in the woods and I'll take you in and show you. And like, we just never get around to, but like some people have never found them here. And realistically, just go walk in the woods and just keep walking. You're going to find them. I promise. The summer chanterelle you will fucking find anywhere around water. If you just walk through the woods, man, doesn't even need to be around water. Like in a 10-kilometer proximity to water, you will find it. I've never went in and not found mushrooms. How about that? As a final line, they're there every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time. The spots mean everything, though. Spots. Get your spots.
What's coming up now in like terms of
foraging? Okay. What's coming up? This is super exciting. I was out. So, like I said, I dropped some mushrooms at the Lester's today. And I just got to say, even before I left, like this woman came over and she's like, I could smell the chanterelles from over there. I was like, oh, yeah, man, they smell really nice. And she's like, I'm going to buy one of these full cartons. And like I do them up in 5-pound cartons. And I was like, yeah, do it, man. Like, go for it. Like, I'll be out here twice as quick kind of thing. And I spoke to her about the interview tonight and the group and the Foraging Tours. I'm always dropping this. I'm trying to make it more known and just make everyone be on the same wavelength about it. But I was telling her, this is what's coming up. So like I've found a couple winter chanterelles so far. Nothing worth picking out. A winter chanterelle, the only kind of similarity is the color of the stem being the same color as a chanterelle, like a golden color. And I call them crazy legs, basically, because the stem looks like if you put 2 of your fingers together and that little seam that runs between your fingers, that is basically what the stem looks like. It looks like a Twizzler, kind of 2 pieces of Twizzler. And the cap is like a dark kind of grayish color. So like the cap is not a bright color like a summer chanterelle. And they're really good in broths, really good in soups. I want to give a shout out to Adam at Bad Bones Ramen down on Water Street. He loves the winter chanterelles in the broths down there. Check him out. But yeah, not my favorite mushroom to eat or use, but a very, very nice to pick because they pick so clean. There's no slug shit on them. Nothing really sticks to them. Like you just pick them and that's it. They're good to go. But also at the same time as that, I found a couple hedgehog mushrooms in the last couple of days. I'm going to probably wait about 3 weeks before I harvest any hedgehogs, but they're a little bit more elusive here on the Avalon. I know a guy out on the west coast of Newfoundland, Taro. He has hedgehog spots that are like hundreds of pounds of hedgehogs in these spots, which is unheard of out here. So it's like, you know, something... And there's no chanterelles out on the west coast where the Avalon is just chanterelles abundant. So it's like, you know, it's like a kind of seesaw. Like there's something out there. There's something everywhere. But the hedgehog is, first of all, my favorite mushroom. Hindum repandum is like, I'm not good at Latin, but there's basically 2 kinds of edible hedgehogs here. One is a really, really large white mushroom. Now, I like to mention that a hedgehog mushroom doesn't have gills. It has little tiny bristles, like a hedgehog would underneath, and they kind of feel really weird when against your hands and stuff when you're picking them. But like they can get up to like a pound for one mushroom. They're aesthetically, when you cut the mushroom, because it has those little bristles underneath and it's a nice meaty white mushroom. When you cut it in slices, it's aesthetically just pleasing for any fine dining, beyond the taste. But it's elusive. It doesn't grow like a chanterelle. They grow in S-like snake patterns, and if you can find a patch of like 16 or 20 hedgehogs, that's like a patch of like 600 chanterelles. It's like a good find. But they're my favorite mushroom. Last year, just to throw out some prices, 25 bucks a pound on hedgehogs last year. So, and last year on chanterelles, it was like a crazy year on them. So many mushrooms around. It was like super cheap. It was like 10, 11, 12 bucks some places. But like a lot of like the loyal people, you just throw them 10 bucks a pound on those. This year, just to compare numbers, I've heard of places that I supplied paying 16 bucks a pound uncleaned for mushrooms, the chanterelle mushroom. I sell them for 15 bucks a pound to all the restaurants. Anything under 10 pounds. 10 to 19 pounds is $13.50. And then like Lester's who get 20 and over, they get them for $12.50 a pop. And like basically the price is like anything. Like my rent has went up. Like I can't buy cheese for $4.99 anymore. Like, you know, there's a lot of work that like people don't really understand that goes into it. It's like, it's fun and dandy to just like fucking show up at a restaurant with these clean mushrooms and they're like, man, thank you. We're going to use these and everyone's going to love them. But like, it's years to find your spots. Once you got your spots, it's still time dedicated to walk in there. It's not like you're walking through a meadow. You're walking through the squirreliest woods that you probably ever walked through. And most of the time you're by yourself and you're doing what you love and you're trying to find the biggest patch possible and you're screaming at the top of your lungs when you do. And it's just a great feeling, man. And when people are in there and you're sharing that, like I often take friends, anyone that shows any interest outside of these foraging tours, that just knows me on a personal level, I fucking take them in the woods and like they all love it. They can't believe, hey man, I walk by here and like I grew up here. I grew up here at the gates and 14 years I never found a mushroom, but now there's mushrooms up here and I know what they are and I know how to eat them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, just like you started the whole interview with like, you know, how it's bustling and how like it's kind of growing, just like the want or need or just like how people are fucking just loving foraged goods more and more as the months go by and as time passes. But, you know, when it really comes down to it, it's all about who we're sharing the knowledge with and who's interested. Some people will never be interested in going in the woods with you. Ever. You could try to talk their ear off and be like, hey, you can learn all this, but they just never go. So, you know, you're not going to win everyone over, but anyone who shows any interest talks about it and thanks you for it. And you know, it's a great fucking feeling, man. It really is.
Do you ever get into like shallow sea life stuff?
What's that?
I don't know, just like what's coming to mind is just like snails and stuff that are like easily accessible along the shoreline, like aquatic life.
Yeah. Well, I know the only thing with the only thing I do on the beaches, to be honest with you, I have harvested some seaweed to help a friend's farm for fertilizer, just helping them take that off the beach. I wish my fucking friend Marcy was here from BC. She was talking about seaweed the other day, and she's super interesting and very knowledgeable. She would be able to shout out a bunch of stuff. But on beaches, mainly for me, it's just like finding bones to make jewelry out of or finding driftwood to make my next piece of furniture out of. I do a lot of wood carving and stuff as well. And it's just beachcombing on beaches and swimming in the ocean. Like I know there's... Like my friend Clarence lives out in Corner Brook, and he has the best mussel bed ever I've ever possibly can imagine. But it's just not a regular thing for me. Like I'm much more like at home, like just like walking through the moss and like being comfortable with what I know and like learning like a couple new mushrooms every year and just like adding to the knowledge and adding to the repertoire. But like I'm not gonna talk about something that I don't know about, but like I love talking about fucking shit and teaching people stuff that I am completely comfortable with and that I'm completely 100% on board and know that this is the way that it is. So like if we're walking through the woods, there's a lot of mushrooms that I can on the foraging tours being like, hey, like say basic names like the Rusula or like talk about boles or talk about polypores and stuff. But like I'm not like a mycologist. I'm not like into incredible scientific detail about a lot of things. I like knowing like, hey man, this is fucking delicious. And this is how you can find this delicious mushroom because of where it's growing. And this is its habitat. And let's find another spot like this because that was a delicious mushroom. So we're going to keep finding these now. And like every year, like I try to learn 1 or 2 edible species of mushroom every year to add. I won't sell those edible species because nothing really grows in abundance to make it worthwhile to do that, with the exception of the summer chanterelle, the winter chanterelle, and the hedgehog. And I know a lot of people don't even sell their hedgehogs because they're just so delicious they keep them themselves. You can't really go and pick 20 pounds of hedgehogs on the Avalon unless you got some great spots or some great luck or whatever. You know, there's a lot of luck involved. Like even in it, like just say I have 78 spots that I go to and I got them all pinpointed on my map. I could still go like I took my friend Andrew Collins. Shout out to Andrew. What's up, buddy? Gave my friend Andrew his first introduction. His dad picks a lot of chanterelles in Halifax and Nova Scotia area. And like I took him in the other day because I know he's a good berry picker and I knew he'd be a good hand to come in and like, hey man, come in, help me pick some mushrooms. We're gonna sell them and we'll split the cash. And just like hey man, come help me paint a house and I'll split the cash with you or whatever. Same kind of deal. But he was a good hand in there, and like he was even surprised with like how much we're finding. He's getting right excited, and just like he's been my buddy for over 10 years. But like seeing that excitement in his face, man, it's just like, yeah, man, like it makes it worthwhile. So like I'm super stoked to like take strangers in the woods and like really like see how everyone reacts to it. Like, is this gonna be a flop? Is it gonna be a failure? Or are people gonna fucking love it?
Yeah. Do you ever have any concern from your customers who are buying mushrooms or anything about their, I don't know, like
integrity or yeah. Basically, I'm got super OCD, and it kind of is a great thing sometimes, and also a curse. But in the way of like mushrooms, it's like, man, I'm bringing the best product I could possibly bring and deliver to these restaurants. That's 98% of the time picked that same day. And I've only ever because I do follow-up calls, like obviously for future orders, like trying to like keep like when they run out, trying to have more for them and trying to time that out because like restaurants are busy. They're not going to be calling the mushroom man whenever they run out of mushrooms. Like they kind of rely on me to kind of fill that role. And when it comes to what's the question? Sorry.
Just like the integrity of the mushrooms.
Oh, the integrity. When it comes to the integrity of the mushrooms, it's like the whole point is to provide the best product possible for these restaurants, so then they can provide the best product and meal possible for their clients and customers. Like if you bring down shitty fucking mushrooms, they're not going to call you back anymore. Does any restaurants ever say, are these poisonous one? Are you sure there's not a poisonous one in there? No, because a lot of these people, like there's this trust there, you know what I mean? So, like there's every other week there's a new restaurant that's buying off me for the first time, but no one's ever looked at me and said, hey, I don't really know if these are the ones that are going to make me sick or not. Are you sure? Are you sure that they're the ones that aren't going to make you sick? It's just like this trust thing. Now, it's funny that you mentioned it because I walked by the fish depot yesterday actually, and it said, like the sidewalk sign, like it always does, all these amazing kinds of fish, alligator, shark, whatever. And then it said fresh local berries. And I know that like the son relatively because of just like frequenting there and getting fish and stuff. And he was out for a cigarette or whatever, and I just stopped and I was like, so you guys sell local berries, hey? And he's like, yeah, we sell local berries. I was like, would you be interested in carrying some local foraged mushrooms? And I don't not everyone really knows the word foraged either, so I don't try to use that a whole lot, but I just try hey, are you interested in buying any local mushrooms that grow in the woods? And then his face just like, he turned and didn't even look me in the eye and kind of looked on the other side, and he's like, looked back. He's like, no, 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 no. We don't take the chance on that. No, no, we can't take the chance on that. But like, I never explained to him like the trust that, Lester's Farms, the trust that a dozen restaurants downtown, from Gypsy Tea Room, Adelaide, Oliver's, Bernard Stanley's, like, these places are all very respectable places. And, they're not calling me saying 13 people got sick at our restaurant last night because we sold out of mushrooms and we thought they were real chanterelles, but they're not. Like, there is a trust thing there. And I understand the question, like, fuck, man, like, if I wasn't picking them, if I didn't know anything about mushrooms at all, and someone tried to feed me mushrooms that I didn't know about, I would be questionable. I really would, unless I was a foodie and, I knew what that name was. But if it was just a random thing, I'd be like, what is that? Are you sure that's all right? Like, there is a question, because, man, like, there's small things that are very poisonous in this world. And, Jesus, one wrong bite of something, like I always suggest, like, guys, anyone going to pick mushrooms, please, just like go in with an open mind to maybe not even pick anything, and don't pick and eat the first time you go picking mushrooms. Pick them, go on Newfoundland mushrooms, make a post, ask what they are. Go on Newfound Forage, make a post, ask what they are. I promise you, within 5 minutes, there'll be a dozen people answering your question, because we're all here to help each other and we're all here to make each other learn new things. So if you think you found chanterelles, or if you think you found something that you might want to eat, don't fucking eat it. Especially if you're just going in for the first time. It takes a lot of times going in the woods. Like, there's a lookalike for the chanterelle, the jack-o'-lantern. How do you know it's not that? Maybe you should make a post and ask someone, because I can't remember the joke right now. I suck at jokes. There's some kind of joke about, like, if you just go in eating mushrooms, you're not going to live very long. I don't know. Someone knows it.
Maybe I'll try to look that up, or if you remember later on, I'll stick it in.
Yeah, sure.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing all that, all those stories and stuff. I definitely want to get out there now and start looking around. And
yeah, man, you should just come out. Like, you're more than welcome to come out on next tour. Like,
yeah, and
I'll cut you in. I'll be like, this is my sidekick here. He's my DJ.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to get in contact with you, they could go through Newfoundland Forage or give you a call if they want.
Newfound Forage. Yeah, there's no land. It's like one word, Newfound Forage. Right. Or give me a shout, 691-5009.
It's a good phone number.
Yeah, I tried that one.
All right, man. Thanks again.
All right, no problem, dude.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. For any and all past episodes, be sure to search Curious Jord on your favorite podcasting app. You can also find me on any of those time-consuming and soul-sucking social media platforms by searching Curious Jord Podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Cheers.